Good luck, everyone.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the third edition of the Global Solar Council Virtual Forum. Exceptionally, this year we are at COP27 in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, an hub for Africa. There is the Global Solar Pavilion, it's a joint pavilion Global Solar Council with GWAC, the Global Association of the Green Industry. Is a result of the cooperation we started last year with the signature of the MOU of cooperation between us, producing many documents, report, and also now a joint pavilion where we are meeting many ministers and trying to communicate and transfer our knowledge and also our recommendations for policies, for legislation. The virtual forum will be organized in two sessions. The first session is the morning session that will last about 1 hour. It's focused on disability. The second session will be focused on a large-scale project, will be in the afternoon. And at 2 o'clock Egyptian time, is 1 hour later than Europe. And so we start with the first session of the morning. The first session is called as the campaign Global Solar Council Running, Empowering People with Solar PV. We strongly believe that the disability solutions, disability projects, rooftop, commercial, residential, and industrial can really contribute a lot. As has been demonstrated, we see some statistics in many countries to the global market. So disability can have an important percentage of the total capacity. But what is more important that is the people. The people today can be protagonists and to take the leadership of this energy transition. This is what we try to communicate to all the people. And all the people can become independent, can become resilient to, of course, the increase of price of energy, to the lack of energy, security of energy. We see what is happening in Ukraine, and we have a testimony of Ukraine, where the entire cities without energy, without light, and how important it is to become independent. So self-consumption, solar plus storage is really an important solution. And nowadays, the people can take the lead, as I was saying. There are some numbers. We have ambitious target to keep the increase of temperature to 1.5 degrees. And the year is talking about totally 10 gigawatts by 2030. We are talking about 5 giga 2030, 10 giga 2050, and terawatt, and let's say 14 terawatt by 2050. And also the International Energy Agency is talking about a target of 100 million rooftop solar to reach this target by 2030, and 240 million rooftop solar residential project to reach that target. And so it's a huge number, and still we believe that this number is not enough ambitious. We can reach much, much more. And so we have, as a Global Solar Council, we have conducted on one side a global campaign to disseminate the benefit of solar and for people, the benefit that solar can have, how the people can contribute themselves, the economy, there's energy security, how much they can contribute to the planet, to the grid, and to the environment, to the climate change. And also, we have also run a study that will be presented after this introduction, which is a benchmarking on policy between emerging markets and mature markets, policy, permitting, and regulation in general for disability PV project. and they will present some intermediate findings as the study is ongoing, and the content that will come out from this discussion today will be part of the report we need to finalize by the end of the year. So there will be some anticipation. So before we go to the panel, and we have a very high-level panel, a very competent panel, I'd like to ask Francesco, which is our market intelligence communication manager, to give some intermediate findings of the study.
Thank you, Gianni. Thank you for the introduction. Also, gave me an assist since we're running a little bit out of time. You already introduced some of the topics I need to talk about. So while Tibetan I think can facilitate the presentation, I promise I'll not be too long. First of all, let me say it's great to join this session. We have amazing speakers. This is, as Danny was saying, this year we were running a campaign focused on distributed solar PV. Why? Well, because this is an exceptional momentum. We will see two main drivers of a new desire to take individual action. We believe one is very unfortunate. We see recently, in the past few years, caused by extreme weather events, and also an energy crisis caused by the fossil fuels price, and this has brought up energy bills. So there is this drive from the individual level to take individual action, individual steps to reach higher resiliency and lower costs, and protect against both market and physical shocks. This is very nice from the CNN, given the terrible radical healing, 100% solar community was able to undergo the article without loss of power. And this is possible because of solar PV's incredible versatility. So go to the next slide. It's not only a matter of reducing costs and being more resilient, there is also strategic climate action because the decarbonization of the building sector is critical if you want to be on a pathway to net zero by 2050. And there's just some figures, both IRENA and the International Energy Agency, the state is very clearly. For example, the building sector, which of course is made by the residential, commercial, industrial, public buildings, is responsible for around 40% of annual global energy related CO2 emissions, 20% alone from building operations. So, of course, solar PV is the main driver really to decarbonize these building sectors and create higher ways of energy conservation and efficiency, both heating and cooling, or lighting, of course. What's interesting is that by 2050, IRENA estimates that the building sector will see the highest direct electrification rates. So, together with 20% of the total energy transition investment that will flow into the sector, this will create important opportunities around the world. And on the bottom part is really our main campaign target. We want to do our part in order to allow our societies to reach these goals that the International Energy Agency brought forward. It is estimated that up from the current 25 million households equipped with rooftop PV, we will need 100 million by 2030 and more than double that by 2050. One of the objectives of our campaign is to inspect whether the world can actually do much more than that. Next slide, please. So this is the rationale behind the campaign, and I will go fast. As we We have been late and Jan has already introduced. We have two pillars of the campaign. One is communication activity to disseminate the benefits of distributed strategy to the public at large. And thanks to the GC members, partners, and also media partners, we are already able to make available our material in English, Portuguese, Spanish, French, Chinese, Arabic, and Ukrainian. And I will show you in a moment what's that about. And the other pillar is a benchmarking of policies permitting regulations on a number of countries. Engaging GC members and partners to understand what are the main challenges the major markets and trying to match them with policy practices in mature ones. The objective, of course, is to help to assist a faster deployment uptake of distributed strategy worldwide, because we believe, as Jamie said at the beginning, that from distributed generation can come a great contribution for overall capacity figures that we know we need, Jamie mentioned, for net zero. Next slide, please. So, very quickly, this is the chapters of our communication campaign. Through which we make available blogs and social media posts in all the languages to try and cover the broad range really of benefits and positive externalities that this technology can create. So we move quickly ahead. Next slide, please. So you can see some, really a lot, some of the topics we're trying to cover and try to deliver to people as much as possible to engage the highest number of people possible. The aspect of civil strategy on independence of individuals of households, allowing for greater energy access, especially of jobs that can be created. Also, very importantly, as one of the greatest challenges we face is the hyper concentration of supply chain, faster deployment of solar PV at the distributed level can also be a big driver for the development of local supply chains. Also, it is the true gateway to energy security, international is really we know. And likely, another research confirms that the spike in price that we've seen last year and this year is temporary, it will come down, and so there's no necessity to wait. If you can invest in certain, you can start saving. Next slide, please. So that was the communication side. I invite you, I'm sorry, I need to rush a bit. I invite you to go on our website, and everybody is available for any organization that wishes to join the campaign, to use the material, to disseminate. The other part that I will present a bit more in detail today is the benchmarking analysis. So thanks to the cooperation of the Universal Council Technical Committee, we have produced a survey. And we survey we inspect the standard rooftop solar PV capacity of countries, potential rooftops solar PV capacity, authorization framework and incentive mechanism. And as Johnny mentioned at the beginning, we will formulate recommendations in a report. It should be completed by the end of the year, which will include in-depth country outreach, which we will not be looked at today. Since the study is still ongoing, but rather we will see some comparison. So on this nice map, you can see thanks to the GC members where so you can see these are the countries that have participated in our analysis for the moment. 12 countries: Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, France, Malaysia, Mexico, Philippines, South Africa, Spain, and Ukraine. And under sources, as you can see, the organizations that have kindly provided the data. So a big thank you to them. And so
the most important thing here is to say that even though it's still not a big sample, it is very spread, and we cover a lot of different places. So let's move forward, please. So we can take a look at some of the really main takeaways, and then we give space to the panel. So first of all, what we're seeing is that installed capacity is spread. It's not necessarily concentrated in some areas. And what you can see here is the largest markets currently for rooftop solar PV in our group, and the ones that have installed more than 1 gigawatt of capacity for rooftop are Brazil, in order: Brazil, South Africa, Spain, Mexico, and France. And what you see on the graph, starting from below, the blue lines represent the installed capacity of rooftop PV against the total solar PV capacity in the country. So we go to the next slide, and we see also the share of the distributed capacity against the total. And that, as Gianni mentioned, was one of our really main focus. We believe it's very important to communicate, and this is the proof that significant portion of total capacity can come from distributed generation. And so this is a great assist in order to reach our capacity goals that are very ambitious globally. And so we see that, for example, in the case of Colombia, almost 90% of their installed PV capacity is rooftop. And we see also very mature and flourishing markets like South Africa, close to 60%, Brazil, close to 50%. This I just need to clarify. There is still not clear definition of distributed. Some countries they have different definitions. So that's why we focused on rooftop. And our friends from Brazil will say that if we count the distributed capacity as they intended, the share of rooftop surpasses 60%. And also big shares in Mexico, Spain, and Philippines, above 10%, Ukraine also 10%. So move forward, please. This is also interesting. Through the survey, we also try to inspect the potential. So what you're seeing here is the markets, the countries we have information for. So on the graph, you see the blue lines are the current installed rooftop PV capacity against the red one, which is the potential. And if you ask about the sources, this is the potential according to the national associations of those countries. Run studies, and sources are available on the website, will be available in the report as well. So we see that the takeaway here is really that still there is a huge potential to unlock, a huge potential. And also in countries that have little shares for now, they can grow really a lot. On the right hand side, you see the official targets for some of these countries. Some countries, we have to say, they still have no clear rooftop PV targets, and this is one of the recommendations. It's very important to have a target. But anyway, we can see Brazil has a huge target of 60 gigawatt by 2030, very ambitious. 12 million rooftop systems for households will need to be deployed. And let's move forward. So this is another interesting point. Now we're moving from the capacity and potential sections to the authorization procedures. What we see here is the perceived complexity of permitting stages and grid connection procedure in these countries. And the takeaway here is that the grid connection procedure is always perceived as the biggest issue, challenge, which is slowing down the process. It is never the case that the permitting process is perceived as more complex or difficult than the grid connection. Let's move forward, please. And we will see, we already have identified a great good practices that attacks this problem. So what we see here instead is another very important issue is the uniformity, the homogeneity of authorization procedures at national level. And we know that what is shown here is that still a lot of countries, even though they have national guidelines, the de facto procedures are very different in different regions and part of the countries. Like in the case of Argentina, this is very, very significant. Let's move forward, please. So on incentives, many responses are the necessity of additional financial support. Of course, we hear COP is one of the key objectives. There are a number of ways we know, and in some countries, in specific cases, still the use of incentives is it's important to get the market accelerating. And still, there are some countries, like the case of South Africa, that have no incentives in place. Let's move forward. So this is really the most interesting slide, I think, and we are already able to identify some good practices that can be disseminated, and here are some of the most significant ones. For example, the PMGD, I hope I'm not butchering it, but Pequeños Medios de Generación Distribuidos of Chile really seems to attack very effectively the complexity of the grid connection issue, because it states that every power plant with a capacity under 9 megawatts is guaranteed grid connection once created. And also, it's guaranteed to buy the excess power produced from the plant at a fixed price, and these are information known at the beginning of the project, so the result is a more predictable income stream and comfort for the investors. So this is for sure a practice that can be replicated, and we know that already some markets in Latin America are trying to do the same. For example, Mexico, something similar but way lower scale for plants under 500 kilowatts. The state doesn't require a mandate to have a permit whatsoever. And another interesting case is the one of France. On the right, we have this beautiful news came in recently. So the Senate has passed legislation which still needs to undergo the full process, but they state that solar power must cover large parking slot mandatorily. Also, the country is looking at establishing a one-stop shop, which can greatly accelerate the deployment, the process, and thus the deployment of solar PV, because you can have a simultaneous review of all the authorization proceedings, examine town planning and environmental authorization in the same place with the same bodies involved, and this should speed up the process a lot. Can we go to the next slide, please? Almost done. These are our preliminary recommendations, pretty general for the moment. We'll have in-depth country analysis, but these, I mean, are general, but still very significant. So first, if possible, guaranteeing grid connection and simplifying a lot the permitting for small scale, really small scale PV system. It's very important, of course, it's clear. And also it's very important to define maximum mandate times for permitting. It's also significant that procedures at national level, they have to be homogeneous, of course, otherwise in different, with the same conditions in different areas, you can you achieve very different results, and also time spans. For the investors, it's also very important to land in a transparent and clear environment, legislative environment. And countries, as I said before, should try to set national targets for PV, because this is another important point for investors, because you let them understand what's coming in the next years. And also what we're trying to do with this report is don't start from scratch and learn from others, disseminate and replicate good practices, because there are a lot already in place. This was the last slide. So let me just thank the GSC team. Not everyone is here, but everyone is participating. And also the greatest thank you goes to the GSC members who have provided this data and are allowing us to do this analysis. Looking forward to these amazing panels. Thank you very much. And I give the mic back to Gianni. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can, Lars, have the chat with the speakers. And after this presentation, I'd like to invite the speakers, Stefan Singer, Senior Climate Science and Global Energy Policy Advisor on Climate Action Network International. Stephen, if you want to take the chair, and also Dan Cooper, Global Lead, Energy Transition, Climate and Energy Practice of WWF. Then, if I would like to also to take a seat as well. And online, we have Surya Jakaran, Climate and Energy Analyst, Greenpeace International. And so welcome, thank you for being here. I don't know if I'm too much in the middle or, okay, at the moment we don't have slides. Connecting with us afterwards. First of all, we will have also after a debate, the testimony of very important. I'd like to keep as an announcement in a moment. So let's move on with the roundtable at the moment. So 240 million rooftop by 2050, and we really believe it's also, as Global Consumer Council, a conservative number. On your view, Stefan, is achievable? Is also conservative? What we need to do, and any comment on the presentation made by Francesco. Stefan.
How long time do I have? How long time do I have?
Well, okay. Yes.
Thank you. I wrote that down. I think the almost tenfolding of solar rooftops globally by 2050 and fourfolding by 2030 compared to today is certainly ambitious. But as you said, I wouldn't call it conservative. I would call it realistic. If you want to stay at 1.5C, it's ambitious. It needs significant funding, private equity, probably public equity if you look into public buildings. If I look at the studies which promote and decarbonize 100% based renewable energy structure worldwide, then we need about 80%, roughly 40% each, 80% wind and solar, given that everything, almost everything is electrified. The rest would be geothermal, bioenergy, and hydropower. And of that, 40% solar and wind will include also about 20% green hydrogen, which we need for how to decarbonize sectors and chemical industry, steel industry, etc., etc. So if we assume we currently have about 3% solar PV generally, and not all is rooftop, of electricity, and we need to go to 40% solar power generally, assuming the electricity sector is growing significantly, then you might have an update on the number from 240. I can't tell you the number here, I haven't done the calculation, but you might need more. You might need more. I'm not saying it's not ambitious, I'm just saying you might need more to match the long-term goal. Let me tell you one point on the, if I may say, on your policy recommendation at the end, please. I think they're all good, but you miss out 3 very important factors that had been very important on providing the backbone of PV expansion in many countries, which need to be considered. Those are not guaranteed grid access, please. I would go for preferred grid access. Everything being the same, if you have problems in the grid, if you have oversupply of solar, which we hope will happen at some point in time, then you have to switch off nuclear and fossil fuels in the grid, but allow renewables go in. Preferred grid access. That was basically the success in Europe to grow PV. That was a success in Germany, where we have now 11% solar power of all electricity. Highly industrialized countries preferred grid access. In summer months, we have the same is true in Belgium. We have sometimes 80, 90, 100% of our electricity runs purely by solar. And most of that is rooftop in Germany. We have 1.6 million utilities, rooftop providers. No blackout, no brownout, because the grid transmission system operators, the grid companies, work very well. If you do not have preferred grid access, but guaranteed grid access, you allow the utilities to switch you off. You still have the grid access, but they might switch you off if they believe that variable time solar is not coming in, coming out, and there might be others who need to have equitable access. No, you need to have preferred grid access. Second point is, which is an issue what we are seeing in several countries, there's a limitation of how much solar panels you can put on your roof. Very often, legislation, this is often regional legislation, so it's difficult to control, but that's a problem. You can only have rooftop PV, which satisfies your own needs. You might be having a house on public building, a school, a hospital, whatever you want, in a solar exposed region, solar exposed area. Then some legislation allows you only to put so much PV on the roof as you need. And the houses around you, which might be shaded, which cannot benefit from that rooftop. So you need to have legislation that allows exposed houses, higher houses which are exposed to the sun, to have more solar panels on the roof, to basically be able to provide, through a simple short grid to the neighbors, the electricity. That will help a lot, because not every house can have solar, right? Not every building can have solar because some are shaded. Or in cities, I mean, skyscrapers, it is not enough if you have about 50, 60 families living there. The third thing is net metering. It's very important. If you have solar panel on your roof, usually most of the sun is coming while people are out for work, kids are at school, etc., but that's when the sun is coming. If you do not have net metering, you would basically waste a significant amount of sun which is coming on your roof while you are not there. If you have net metering, the utility will be forced to give you the stuff back in the night when there's no sun shining, and you need electricity to watch a football game, to cook, etc. That's very, very important. We've seen this in India. India, with a significant amount of solar power potential, simply doesn't go ahead with rooftop as it could, because it doesn't allow net metering. Instead, what is happening, if you're grid connected and have no net metering, you subsidize the utility, right? So I think you should put that in. That makes your life better, that makes solar cheaper, and makes it more equitable, and gives the benefit for the investor, in this case, a house owner, to put solar on the roof because he or she benefits from that one, because he gets the electricity back in the night when he needs it. I have one question to you, and the question to you is, you have the selections of countries. You miss out, I might have missed it in the presentation, I apologize. I just have in mind 4 countries which have been done significant amount of rooftop solar, so different instruments, but you have it in there. It's my country, Germany. We have 11% electricity. I think I mentioned that one of solar. It's your country, Italy. It's Belgium, and it's the US. There might be other countries. Why don't you have them in? It's just a question. Huh? I know you focus on roofs, and I'm not adding to that one, but I think we need to keep in mind that countries, I mean, I see this, I mean, I've been working with the German government on that one, a little bit before the election, the Social Democrats. What we were doing in Germany, we were looking into expanding decentralized solar, not only on roofs. We think of facades, we think of putting solar panels across highways and across railways. No man's land. right? We would expand significantly the potential of solar power. This is not against roofs, it's just adding, right? My last point would be and this is a criticism here, to be very honest. I'm a little bit disappointed that you have as your main sponsor BP. It's an oil company. I don't think for the credibility and the reputation of the Global Solar Council, you need to, or you should accept sponsoring from oil companies. It doesn't help your reputation. Sorry, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. First of all, a lot of from this last point, of course, Lightsource BP as a sponsor, but everybody sponsor here, and of course, is disputable. Stay on the rules of Global Solar Council, and of course, all the strategies made by all the members and strategy committee. So, but I got your point is something that can be question it anyway. It's a big question of many, if to keep some entities totally out, or to, let's say, try to integrate the components that are trying to do some efforts. But it's a difficult answer to your question. And very good. I like when you commented, of course, the fact that talking about communities, and after your speech, we have two NGOs, and the most important global, of course, NGO for that represent people, no, on the environment. And we are talking about energy communities. The fact that anyway, somebody should also think utilizing its roof is in a good position for the neighbors. No, this very nice. Anyway, it's not only solidarity, but it's also we need that anyway for increasing our components. And thank you for the recommendation on the policy size. Indeed, priority of dispatch, etc., is very, very critical, important. We have done a lot of battle with Global Solar Council support in many countries like Mexico and etc. on taking out this priority that was in place in a retroactive manner. So it's an important. On the point of net metering, yes, it's useful. There are some countries that they want to stimulate storage anyway in order to accumulate. Yes, but net metering need to stay there until there is a proper storage system ready to accompany anyway this the introduction of the storage. But I'd like to then I will come back to you, because we are reading this in this part of this session of the virtual forum. We want really to talk with people. And we are very proud to have WWF and Greenpeace with us, because for the first time, maybe it's an historical momentum of cooperation, let me say, of a global industry association with the two most important NGOs representing people on one target, which is the benefit of people and our climate. I start with Dean Cooper, and sorry, Surya, I will come back to you. I know you have a few slides as well. And Dean, so what's your view on about this target, how we can cooperate together in order to make it happen, or even be more ambitious even?
Thank you. Hi, is that okay? Can you hear me? Perfect. All right. So, first of all, I mean, thanks very much to GSC just for the opportunity to talk about how we can best grow this whole industry with the great potential that we have for PV in particular, for renewable energy in general. Clearly, we want to match the enormous demand that we have to sort of switch from fossil fuels to PV. But also for the energy access we've been talking about, you know, even in remote areas, trying to bring PV as the sort of solution. Now, my role is, first of all, to welcome this opportunity to sort of cooperate. I'm very pleased to be here because we think we've got lots of common agendas. But also just to give a note of caution to some of the issues you mentioned, the sort of the social issues, also the nature issues, which we need to try to consider, and then to try to give some options for a way forward as well. So a sort of positive note on that. So we want to fast track renewable energy and PV and solar, but we need to be aware of the full impact that's likely to have, and we want to work together to find the best way to try to fulfill the global potential for PV without causing any unnecessary disruption. Now, you may be wondering what I'm referring to when I'm talking about these concerns. So the three main issues that I think we need to address as part of our aim to fast track PV. So firstly, how best we can work together to raise awareness of the urgency in order to switch to renewable energy. So it's the timing. Second one, how to minimize any detrimental impact on nature. So what is happening with any new energy source is what we look at, how to manage that whole process, what the impact is going to be. Thirdly, as you've said previously, to take sort of steps to avoid any social disruption due to the whole transition away from fossil fuels and what that is going to do in a broader sense. So let me address those quickly, each of them. So the change to renewable energy, I think, basically needs to be much quicker than people are really recognizing, acknowledging at the moment. I'm reading in the papers, just in the news before coming, about all the droughts, the floods. Every day seems to be a new record temperature or records for the climate conditions, the hurricanes. It's how much more evidence do we think we really need to convince people that climate change needs to be put at the top of the priority list? Otherwise, we're going to be in a very big danger of a situation we can't recover from in the future unless we address now. So there are two consumer groups for the future use of solar, as far as we see it. Firstly, those that are currently using fossil fuels, and they need to switch to renewable energy use to switch to solar. But also, as I said, those that don't have any access to energy at all at the moment. And solar can provide them directly with a clean energy source without having to go through the process of fossil fuels first and then adapting to solar or to renewables. So this distinction often matches what we think about as the sort of industrialized countries who have access to fossil fuels and they need to switch, and then the developing countries who may not have energy access, and therefore it's an immediate solution. But the one common denominator between these two is the fact that we need to move quickly. It's the timing that we need to move. So it's something that we need to appreciate. Now what about nature? Now, when I arrived at WWF almost 2 years ago, my background is in the energy sector. I've had sort of 30 plus years talking about energy, renewable energy particularly, but energy efficiency and fossil fuels, even nuclear energy. So I knew lots of perspectives from the energy sector. One of the first things I did when I came to WWF was to read our Living Planet report, which comes out every 2 years and just talks about the status of biodiversity on the planet, the nature situation. And I read in there that over the past 50 years, from 1970 to 2020, we've lost 68% of our biodiversity in wildlife. So let me just say that again. We lost 68% of our biodiversity. Now, I've also had my own business in the past, and my private sector knowledge makes me think that anything that is a loss of 68% is pretty serious. Yeah? I mean, it either needs a very serious reformulation of your operating practice, or you close the business. Yeah? You can't continue with that sort of loss. Now, we released our next Living Planet report a couple of weeks ago, and the same assessment came out, and the number there was 69%. So it's actually getting worse. We're not moving in the right direction, and we have to appreciate that the natural impact or the impact on nature of our energy use is a significant issue which we need to address. So what's all this got to do with renewables? I mean, we know that renewable energy, and particularly solar, is the best way forward. There's no dispute on that. That's where we need to be getting to. But we also know that any new energy source, any new implementation will have some sort of disruption on nature, the natural environment. Now, I say that for solar, I mean, it's particularly a land use issue. So it's land use depriving that of food production, of other areas. So when we talk about rooftop solar, I mean, that's a very good focus because it means you don't have these land use issues. And that's a very positive approach to take forward. So we're very supportive of that. But we think as well that NGOs are in a good position to understand the impact on nature and to work with the industry. So to work with GSC, the representatives of the industry, to make sure that we are implementing the systems in the best way possible so we don't have any damaging impact, which we'll be regretting at a later stage. Now, to bring all of the stakeholders together to look at the energy and nature issues, what we did last year in Glasgow at COP26 was to launch what we call a coalition linking energy and nature for action. And I stress the action because we don't want any more talking on words without actually the doing. So this coalition is really trying to bring together all stakeholders with the private sector, public sector, the financiers, technology suppliers, civil society, so we can all work together to get to this future that we want to see with renewable energy, with solar power, but with an acknowledgement of the nature issue that we need to take into account when we put in place the renewable energy. And thirdly and lastly, I mean, I mentioned the issue of social disruption, and you also mentioned concerns on that. I think this refers really to all of those people who are currently engaged in the fossil fuel industry, who we're talking about, we want to switch from fossil fuels to renewables. Now, we've got to think about what about those people that are using fossil fuels or involved in the whole supply chain of fossil fuels. Yeah, their income depends upon the industry. Their livelihoods are going to be seriously damaged by this switch, which we're all trying to promote. So to win the support of for any sort of transition locally, we want this energy transition, we need to provide opportunities for those that are those people that are going to be currently dependent upon fossil fuels and are going to be affected. So it's not only the users, as I say, of the coal and the oil and gas, but all of those connected with that whole process. Now, if what we want to do is to take in to make sure that these people understand the dangers to the climate and to the planet that we're going to incur if we don't switch, so that they can understand the rationale behind that process, and the fact that we need to do this quickly. But we also need to provide them with the skills and the tools to enable them to make the switch, so that they can be part of that process and they're not going to be revolting and campaigning against the switch. Yeah, we want them to be with us to support that whole process. So basically, we need to find a new balance, and we need to learn to live within the planetary boundaries that exist at the moment. We must bring together the public sector, the private sector, the financiers, the technology providers, the researchers, the social influence, basically all of us to work together for this common objective, this universal shift from fossil fuels to renewables without the social disruption that we can incur otherwise. So my final message is yes, we all agree we must fast track renewables, and PV is a particular aspect of that which has particular benefits, and we're supportive of that whole process. But in that process, we must take care to implement any renewable energy technologies in the least disruptive way possible, both to nature and to the people whose livelihoods depend upon that whole transition. Because without that, we're simply going to swap the climate crisis for a nature crisis, and will leave even greater concerns for everybody to deal with in the future. I'm very, very pleased to work together with GSC for this transition, and thanks very much for the chance to speak now.
Thank you very much, and a lot of input, of course. There are you are inspiring also the table that will be in a very short time on large-scale project. When talk about nature, and it's indeed impressive. The number of biodiversity that we have lost is really, we need to, and we are going forward anyway to lose more. So it's really terrible. And And indeed, rooftop in coming back to the small scale should take a big portion because as much as possible, let me say, because you have the roof and it's empty and is disrupted and is the best way forward really to maximize the rooftop projects as much as possible. And of course, when we go to the field, we need to take in consideration. And I take this as an invitation that I was going to do to have a stable cooperation on the strategy anyway that we are moving forward as an industry association that is I'm sure is going in the same direction as yours. So I will come back to you anyway and on your important comment. Just transition is very important, and I take another aspect very important you said, that sometimes it is easier to start from scratch with communities that with no power at all, that anyway to move from the fossil fuel to the renewables, who has no power should immediately jump to the new technologies, which is very important. So, but let me give the floor as we have a problem of time, but I think there is space for everybody. To Surya Jakaran is correct. Climate and energy analyst of Greenpeace International. I know you have a few slides, and yes, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me and to present a little bit. So I've prepared a few slides, which I will share with you. I hope, since I'm the only virtual speaker for now, I hope that the sound will be okay. And I will start sharing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about empowering people with solar PV from a perspective of Greenpeace, of course. So as you know, we're all very aware of this climate crisis that is happening. It's a rapid changing world, and we do see a decline of people without access to electricity. Currently, around 90% of the people have access to electricity. It still remains the fact that this is about 759 million people who are not connected to any electricity. And by 2030, this is estimated to still be around 660 million people. So we've all witnessed to some level and even experienced the impact of the climate crisis around the world and are aware of the well-known impacts that it comes with. So we've seen hotter temperatures, more severe storms, increased drought, a warming rising ocean, loss of species, not enough food, more health risk, poverty, and displacement. So how we anticipate and prepare and respond to these hazardous events shows resilience. So with this, I want to show you how resilience looks like. Last year in December, we had a typhoon hitting the Philippines in a location that is not very common to be prone to hit to typhoons. So this was a direct effect of how the climate crisis is impacting current people. So let me just. So they were disconnected from any energy for 3 months. So yes, this was a very beautiful project that happened quite recently in the Philippines. And the reason why I wanted to show this is because it shows how this empowers people, it empowers communities, it's engaging people. The problem that they didn't had any electricity for months is because they're not connected to an electricity grid. They have diesel generators, and because of the roads, they were gone. They had no access to supply of diesel for their generators. So this was a project that was done together with Cora to install solar energy for the municipal hall over there, and for people to not sit in the dark. So on my next slide, I want to talk a little bit about the use of solar energy in agriculture. So solar energy is a revolutionary advancement for the agricultural sector, adding value in so many ways, saving precious water resources, reducing dependency on the grid, and saving power costs in the long run, and even becoming an additional revenue stream. So solar pumps could be used for large-scale irrigation and by farmers. So one of the many benefits is that solar irrigation has lowered the price of irrigation significantly for farmers, giving them more independency and motivation to grow crops. We've done a study in the report of solarization of agriculture in the state of Bihar in India. And here we see firsthand how this is empowering farmers, women, communities, and even children. So this is a beautiful example of how solar energy is empowering people. Another benefit is agrivoltaic farming, where crops are grown under the solar panels, doubling up on land use, and some crops thrive in the environment under panels. I know that Dean just mentioned about the land use of solar panels. So we see this as basically as a plus, because there are some crops that can be grown under solar panels and actually thrive in these environments. So how do we empower? First of all, we have accessibility. So solar panels are becoming more available to everyone. With over 350 companies diffused globally, brings me to the next point, which is the cost of solar. The cost of solar PV has decreased more by 3 orders of magnitude since its first commercial use in 1958. And the price of solar equipment has dropped by 89% since 2010. As the price flattened a bit due to supply chain issues, it is estimated that the cost of solar will continue to drop. So building for resilience. What most people are not aware of is that solar panels are very resilient. Most solar panels can hold out wind against like around 225 kilometers per hour. They're waterproof and they can withstand heavy amounts of water. Hence also this picture I've added to this slide where you can see that it's basically built after it's actually flooded, but it still stands. It also has job creation. So solar energy was found to be the fastest growing sector. In 2021, it provided 4.3 million jobs, more than a third of the current global workforce in renewable energy. Not only this, but we've seen more people getting into farming due to the availability of solar solutions, as it ensures power supply. Off-grid solutions. As most people are aware here, we do a lot of emergency response in areas which are hit after some kind of energy crisis or climate crisis. So off-grid solutions, solar off-grid solutions provide the perfect option for flexible, decentralized, affordable energy supply, often in remote areas. These off-grid systems are reliable for outage situations, as these systems store energy and are always ready for potential disaster. For many remote villages and communities around the globe, access to electricity has been non-existent or limited. But off-grid solar is helping to boost the economic and development opportunities of these locations. So ensuring power supply, since solar energy is a natural resource and we happen to have this in abundance, this can ensure power supply. So with this, we've seen so many examples during this session of how solar energy has ensured energy supply and therefore empowered people and communities. So I feel that we are on a good path of creating awareness, empowering people, and securing their energy by means of solar. There's still a long way to go, but by keep telling our stories and actively helping people, I do feel that we're getting there. So thank you for that.
And I think you touched a very good point, of course, or when you talk about, of course, about job creation, which is very important. You touched many aspects. I like to see the video of the Philippines, where I've been 4 times. I know how nice people they are, and I think I was in that island, and really is emotional to see the life arriving to these people and a smile, and this is what encourage all of us together, and we need to continue and cooperate for that. And talking about jobs creation, people, youth, we have the opportunity to have the Great of India, I like to call, but Lisibria Gangujan. Lisibria Gangujan is an environmental activist from India. She started advocating against climate change in 2018. She used rooftop solar to power her plastic shop, where she accepts single-use plastic as currency, which she recycled to create a wide range of products. Lisibria, can you come here on the stage, please? I think we need to start talking with people from youth. Thank you for coming here. And I'd like to maybe, do we need to use the same microphone or no? Okay. So I'd like to listen your testimony for all the people here and online. It's very important. Thank you for being here. Please.
Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here today in Solar and Wind Pavilion. Well, my name is Lisibria Kangujam. I'm 11 years old, climate activist from India. Few months back, I have launched the world's first plastic mini shop where people can bring single-use plastic waste from their home and can take free rice or stationery items or a plant sapling. And after collecting those single-use plastic waste, we convert it into eco-friendly house roof sheets, road tiles, school benches, desks, etc. The mission of this project, of this shop, is to eliminate every single-use plastic from our planet. And it stops the single-use plastic waste from reaching the oceans, rivers, seas, landfills, etc. And it runs purely on solar power. I'm coming here all the way from India by raising funds to tell our leaders to deliver concrete climate action for the loss and damage caused by the climate crisis to the global south. And I want our leaders to give climate justice to the millions of poor, vulnerable people who are already the victims of climate crisis. And we want clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean planet to live. I also want our leaders to include climate education as a mandatory subject in our school education curriculum, so that we could fight the climate change, climate crisis from a very young age, from the grassroots, and there will be no climate solution without climate education. I have a small message to our world leaders. Your action today will decide our future tomorrow. My generation is already the victims of climate change, but I don't want my future generations to face the same consequences because of their inaction and empty false promises. We want concrete climate action now during this COP27 in front of us for a better, cleaner, and safer future. We want climate justice now. Act now to save our planet and our future. My country, India, is facing lots of environmental issues such as floods, droughts, heat waves, cyclones, locusts, air pollution, etc. at the same time. So these are all the impact of climate change. And many indigenous people are losing their lands, are losing their forest and land rights because of deforestation and many mining activities. This is unacceptable. Deforestation must be an international crime. And I will continue to fight for clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean planet to live, which are our basic rights. We are unstoppable, another world is possible, and change is possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucia. One question for you anyway is you touched the point about education, no, is very, very important. And you have been here in this event to talk with people, etc. Do you find a new atmosphere? People understand more and are more available, no, to contribute on a listening voice like yours. What's your feeling? Something's changing or?
Yeah, well, actually, when people come to listen my voice, not my voice, but there are many climate activists, there are many children whose voice is very important, and our leaders and every people living in this world should hear our voice, should listen to our voice. And when people listen to my voice and to other people's voice, other climate activists or other children's voice, then I feel well, it touched my heart, and I feel very happy that people can understand how we feel, how the climate activists feel, how the people, how the children who are losing their parents feel, how they suffer from all these environmental issues. So I feel very happy that people are understanding what are the concerns, what are the issues that they're facing. So please continue to listen to our voice, because our voice is very important. And I would like to say that COP27 is our last hope, and our leaders need to take concrete climate action, and we need a concrete climate action plan during this COP27. And in COP28 in UAE, Dubai, we want a concrete climate action progress summit.
Lysilia, what I can do anyway from my side, and here is also the chairman and the secretary general. We have this campaign on empower people of solar PV. My proposal to the board, etc., will be to also to open a branch of this campaign for youth in order to educate anyway, and maybe we can cooperate together on that.
Yes,
fine,
for sure.
Okay, so it's a new project we started. Yes, thank you very much, Lysilia, for listening all of us, and I think a great contribution. And thank you for listening. I saw all the presentation before, and now we have an important presentation this year that you might be also you interest to, because we have a campaign. We have Natalia Lushinkova, project coordinator of NGO Eco Club, which is online, and our friend and member Artem Semeshis. Sorry, Artem, never will learn your names. CEO of the Solar Energy Association Ukraine. And because right outside we have a banner as well for the campaign to help hospitals in Ukraine. I know that today and yesterday was a very dramatic again day of burns in Ukraine, problem of light, and there are a lot of hospitals without light, and we are supporting this campaign. But I'd like you to say a few words about that. Artem and Natalia, maybe you can, yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gianni. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me? Yes, or only online? Okay. Please confirm that you can hear me, Gianni.
We can, but
I cannot. We cannot hear them. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak during this event, and thank you for the floor, Gianni. Unfortunately, my colleague Natalia, who's supposed to deliver this presentation, she is not able to have a presentation due to the lack of electricity supply and the trouble with the internet. So I jumped in the last time, but also we association is a co-coordinator of the campaign. And thank you so much for the support that Global Solar Council provided for the initiative, for the banner, and that have been present since the very beginning of COP. And we also have success in this campaign. We have already collected some amount of money that will be used to deploy our projects. And of course, for me, it is a pleasure to give a speech just after the future climate leader, and to witness the rise of a new climate leader who will advocate globally our efforts to empower with solar energy all the vulnerable regions and places across the globe. Let me share the presentation, and I will describe you a little bit the situation that have started. We are now talking about the fundraising campaign for empowering Ukrainian hospitals in vulnerable regions with solar power. And this campaign was coordinated by ECA Club and the Solar Energy Association as well, with the support of Global Solar Council. That what you told that actually, yes, yesterday was a very cruel day for our energy system. That was the 6th massive attack since the beginning of October on specifically targeting energy infrastructure. And currently, more than 40% of the whole energy infrastructure is either damaged or destroyed during this full-scale invasion, which leads to a massive blackouts all over the country. So people were not ready, of course, for such a huge disruptions in energy system. Yesterday, it was announced that 10 million people were out of power for hours across the country just after this started. And but luckily, our colleagues from energy sector working very hard. And also, I would like to highlight the efforts that have been done by global community coordinated with Energy Community Secretariat that launched the process for delivering the equipment that is used to repair the energy system on a fast track. Our colleagues working 24/7 to mitigate these damages, to give people electricity. And now in Ukraine, where this climate is quite cold for winter. For instance, we expect already this weekend -7 degrees. This is very important because also with electricity, people have the water supply and heat supply as well. So this impact is very important for us. So we have targeted a small project, but very important for current situation. This project was raised by 3 partner associations: the Eco Club organization, the non-government organization that have been working for almost 25 years in the sphere of climate, ecology, and also renewables. Solar Energy Association, which is the largest solar industry association in Ukraine, and also in the partnership with German charitable organization WIRPERG that coordinates humanitarian supply for Ukraine since the full-scale invasion started in February 2022. What is the key goals for this project? We aim to deliver a reliable renewable supply for 6 key hospitals across the country and in vulnerable regions. These regions people also have not been provided electricity in the occupied territories for 6-7 months, and that's why the first aim is to reestablish the system of healthcare for these territories. And currently, a lot of donors contribute to supply modern equipment, to supply to rebuild the destroyed buildings and facades and everything. And our aim is to add to these hospitals their own renewable generation. So we target 6 hospitals, and we would like to set up six rooftop solar systems with a total capacity around 200 kilowatt. And the financial aim is to collect 200,000 euro for this, which will also will be used to provide some job to local PV installers, and we expect that we will finish the whole phase very fast for 3 months. Just at the beginning of spring, I think this will be already in functioning. So just to show you one example, which have been already implemented in Ukraine with the member of Solar Energy Association company. This is the rooftop solar 10 kilowatt in Lutsk Municipal Regional Hospital. While there is daily curtailments of energy supply, electricity supply, this is a good source for electricity that helps to maintain, to operate for the whole hospital, and yes, and also to give hope to people who unexpectedly are in very difficult situation when there is no electricity in the hospital and they need to be treated to have treatment. This is our pilot project, currently the biggest one in our pipe. This is the hospital, central hospital in Kharkiv city, and we have already done the calculations for this system, precise calculation, PVCs modeling, and everything have been already conducted. As well, we have already supplied battery energy storage for this hospital. It is installed and working currently, helping very much. As I have heard the feedback from the head doctor of this hospital. So we aim to set up a system of PV kilowatt of total capacity installed, and this is precisely calculated that we need 94 modules of around 540 watts, accompanied with hybrid inverters, controllers, and mounting systems. That is currently the calculated projects. Not taking much of your time, I encourage you to support Ukraine in this difficult situation. And also, I think that you can also use this QR codes. If you can, please make the pictures of them. So via these QR codes, you can be strictly directed to our partners' PayPal account of WeWork, and strictly also impact the situation. Even small donations will contribute if we have any size of donations. It's really important for this situation. And if also you're interested to contribute more to this project, to support the realization of this project, current and of further projects, please also you can follow the website, which is on the left, and contact team of Eco Club or association, and we will jointly discuss how you can also help for it. As well, I would like to provide you contact details. Here you can find the links to the website of Eco Club, and also ASIU, where you can find more information about this campaign. And if you need precisely to contact us directly, please use this contact emails as well for a connection. And thanks again for a given word. I thank you for your attention. Hope we together can build a reliable, renewable energy system globally. And we are also, as a community of renewable, let us say, activists, we also support the full increase of solar PV systems globally, the reduction of poverty and the reduction of energy poverty, which to my personal understanding is also the next huge challenge that should be mitigated by the global community and energy community. Thank you for your attention, and thanks again, Jenny, for the support, and also we encourage other stakeholders to support us with this initiative.
Really interesting campaign we are promoting. We have a page also in the Global Solar Council to promote the support to Ukraine linked with this campaign, and I think is a good example how important is becoming independent with the rooftop projects, and we can help really hospitals, and with us maybe WWF Greenpeace can help us maybe to disseminate or also this support to this campaign anyway, which is very important for people giving access, of course, as all of you have said, to people to energy, and how important is, especially when we talk about hospitals in such a context and scenario. Thank you all, and stay with us, and thank you. I think we had a very nice debate on rooftop solar. We understood how important it is really for our the people, let me say, empower for the people, independence, resilience from self-sufficiency for the energy supply, and how important can be in a situation like the war, how important can be in countries like India. We had the testimonial, of course, here with people that have no energy at all, and they can benefit, and how important it is, of course, to disseminate the values of solar, the values of have access to energy, and also take care about education for youth, and it's something that they will take care indeed. And so we close this session that will be recorded and available afterwards. Really, we could not close better. Thank you for all the speakers. Thank you to Greenpeace, to WWF, that we are starting really a new cooperation, which is very important, will be very important for us to engage people. Thank you, Artem, Natalia, for what you are doing for your country, but you are doing, let me say, for all of us, for the democracy and the freedom of all people, the population. And yes, and I think we can conclude this session as we are out of time, because in reality, in 20 minutes, we'll start the other session of forum or large scale project. And of course, we'll talk about the point of biodiversity, agriculture, land, field as well. And if you can stay with us, and thank you all. And we will keep, let's say, I hope this event is a start of cooperation with Greenpeace, with WWF. We need you in our activities, and we need to cooperate in a stable manner. Thank you, Artem, and keep us updated. Our mind is with you in this moment, in any moment. Thank you very much, all. Okay, in 20 minutes, we start the other session. Hello all.